morning, good morning, good morning. We've even got women doing it. That's my message of today. So, I don't know if you caught my interview yesterday on Instagram and Facebook with Leah Ditton. But if you didn't catch it, I would encourage you to go watch it. And maybe just spend a little time contemplating what she did and why she did it. So Leah Ditton is a friend of mine from, she's from the UK. She's 40 years old, and she's been a sailor her whole life, sailing all around the world, sailing races and that kind of stuff. So she's a very accomplished ocean navigator and sailor. But what she did over the last 3 months is pretty incredible. I'm not going to go into it here. I'm just launching off of Leah into another subject. But you might want to go watch it, because what she just did is she rowed a rowboat, which if you go to the post, you'll see pictures of it. She rowed a rowboat from San Francisco to Hawaii. It took her 86 days, all alone in the ocean, no support crew, nobody to rescue her. And pretty amazing feat. I mean, it's just the mental game to do something like that is beyond comprehension. And what inspired today's post was actually Ruth Ginsburg, who, as you may know if you're watching the news, passed last night. And you know, Kimmy and I have watched a couple of documentaries on Ruth's career, which are very inspiring, very courageous, different kind of courage, where you're looking to come up as a lawyer, as a judge, as a student at Harvard and Harvard Law, and you're willing to do that as a woman, where the paradigm in the marketplace is not conducive to that, is not supportive of it. And of course, maybe that's not so much out in the open, like maybe people aren't saying that openly, because women can certainly go to Harvard Law School. But once you get in there, is it an even playing field? Are the men undermining the women and the women's opportunity and their upward mobility? Absolutely. Still happens today in 2020, right? You know, like a paradigm that I'm going to share some transparencies here, so you can see, well, if I have these issues and have had these issues, well, gosh, the whole world's probably got these issues, right? So, you know, Ruth Ginsburg she went on to be one of the most important people on the Supreme Court, which is, you know, 9 justices that really determine the culture and the values and the supreme law of the land of our country. And that's 9 people. 9 people in the whole world are deciding how America's gonna go. And that's pretty crazy, right? Especially when those 9 people are appointed by one person, or rotating one person, but one individual person. So what Ruth Ginsburg did was break that glass ceiling, and of course many, many women have done that. But her life is worth studying, and I would encourage you to study her life and study what she did. And you know, one of the things that inspired me about interviewing Leah yesterday was when I asked her, well, why did you do that? Why did you row a boat 86 days across the Pacific when the odds were actually greatly in the favor of you dying, and alone, with no one to rescue you? She capsized twice, and those both were near-death experiences. What motivated you to do that? And she was very quick and solid to say that what inspires her to do what she does, which her next adventure is to row from Japan to San Francisco, which is twice as far, is to inspire women, and especially young girls, that they can do whatever they want to do. Anything. You can be an astronaut, you can be president of the United States, you can be the CEO of a Fortune 100 company, you can row from San Francisco to Hawaii and break her record, you can raise a beautiful family, you can do whatever you do. It's not about career, it's about self-esteem, it's about confidence. And I have spent a big part of my career coaching mostly women on their state of being, their personal power, their confidence, their peace, their power. And it's a challenge for women because chronically women as a group tend to suffer from low self-esteem, and it's systemic, it's cultural, it's, you know, it stems from growing up in a home where the culture and the paradigm in the home was, well, you know, women, you know, your role is to raise the family and keep the house clean and fix the meals, and the man is the breadwinner. And, you know, that the reality is that's just not true anymore, right? When I met Kimmy, she was a 7-figure earner. She earned more money than I did. And, you know, Kimmy's been a breadwinner for a long time. And, you know, some of you read, you know, some of the stuff I wrote about my mom last week, as she passed away a couple weeks ago. And although my mom was not the breadwinner in the family, she was like, there was no glass ceiling for my mom. Anything she wanted to do, she just went and did. Some things not good, and a lot of things good, but, and I just think that, you know, it's so awesome to see people like Leah and Ruth Ginsburg, you know, break that glass ceiling and let all of you women know. And most of the people I work with are women. 75% of the people in direct selling are women. And women are going to inherit the wealth of this earth, right? They always outlive the men. So the men may have a grip on the wealth, but eventually it passes to the women. And so women, you know, here's my message to you is take your dreams and take your self-esteem and go to work on both. Like, you know, you may want something really, really bad. You may want to succeed. You know, you may have a white hot burning desire for whatever it is you want. But, you know, I kind of thought of this while I was thinking about Leah. You know, if she left her sea anchor out, that's like a, you know, an anchor. If she left her sea anchor out, it wouldn't matter how hard she rowed, she's not going to get where she wants to go. So the sea anchor for most of us is our self-esteem. And our self-esteem is simply a story. It's a story about who we are and what we're worth and what we're capable of, and who will allow us to spread our wings and do whatever we want to do. It's just a story. And it's a story we made up when we were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. You know, we're surrounded by a world. Probably the dad in your life talked louder than the mom. Not in my house. My mom talked way louder than my dad did. She was a force to be reckoned with from day one, but in most homes, it's not that way, right? So I just encourage all of you women, like whatever it is that you want, it's not about working harder. And it's not necessarily about being smarter, although we can always sharpen our axe and get better, right? But the real breakthrough for all of us is to go after our self-esteem and go after that story and reinterpret that story. Like, just make something else up. So, you know, think about it. When you're like 6 seconds old, what is your self-esteem story? You don't have one. When you're 2 months old, what's your self-esteem story? Where you could start to have one, if there's a lot of yelling and a lot of stress and a lot of noise in the house, you can start to have a self-esteem story that the world is not safe, that you're not safe. 6 months old, that can deepen if there's stressful, threatening noise in the house. But my point is, we just make that up, right? So our parents are yelling, and we just make up it's not safe here because we're 6 months old. Well, what if your parents are Italian, right? And that's just the way they talk, right? So you might be totally safe, but you made up that you weren't safe. So maybe you get to be 2 years old, right? And now you're like paying more attention to what's going on around the world, and at least in your home, right? And, you know, maybe you're looking for attention from your mom or dad, and they push you away, or they say no, or, you know, you're crying and they, you know, stick something in your mouth, right? And all of those are opportunities for you and I as little tiny fledgling beings that don't have any context for what's going on in the world, what's going on in the home. Like, oh, dad must be stressed out from work. Well, no, you're 2 years old. You don't even know what work is. You don't know what stress is. You're not really even sure what dad is, other than he's the counterpart to mom, and that was a big dad bug flew in my mouth. Right? And so what happens is we don't have a context for any of that. So whatever's going on in the household, we make up a story about how we fit in or don't fit in, or whether or not we're safe or we're not safe. And it all really boils down to whether or not we matter. And you know, the sad thing is, most women make up they don't matter. Not as much, right? They don't matter as much. And that's the anchor. That's the sea anchor. And it doesn't matter how hard you work. Until you pull the sea anchor up, you're not going to get what you want. And so I just encourage you to go to work on your dreams, like really crystallize your dreams, what it is you want, like be really clear about that, and then pull that sea anchor in. And how do you do that? Well, you just spend some time thinking about and asking what your story is about you. And then just recognize this, folks. We all make it up. If you're 6 days old, you make it up. If you're 6 weeks old, you make it up. If you're 6 years old, you make it up. It's just a story. And you may say, "Oh no, it's not a story. My dad hit me, or I was abused." Yeah, okay, I get that happened. But what you made up is, what does that mean? What does that mean about you, right? So, in the coaching that I do, the deep coaching with people, we talk about the little circle and the big circle. And the little circle is what happened. So you may have been abused. Horrible, right? I can't even imagine. Well, I guess I can, because I was. So you may be abused. That's one thing. That's the little circle. The big circle is, what did you make up about it? That's a big story. So the little circle is, okay, here's what happened. And you could probably describe that in, 10 seconds. And then the big circle is the big story. We keep making up about what that means. What that means about us, how that influences whether or not we matter, and whether or not we're shameful, and whether or not we can tell the truth, and whether or not we can trust people. But all that stuff, folks, we make up. That's all in the big circle. You want to lift up your sea anchor, find out what's in the little circle. Find out what's in the big circle. And then make something up, make up something new in the big circle. And then practice that. Practice studying it. Practice, visualizing it. Practice affirmations that support that new story. And I promise you, folks, I promise you from the bottom of my heart, you can change that story. I changed mine. Leah changed hers. I'll bet Ruth Ginsburg had a story she had to change. You can change her. You can do anything you want to do. Just pull up the sea anchor. See you tomorrow.